Hello, everybody, and welcome back to M&J Games, and welcome back to Three Towers. But as you can see, this is not Three Towers, so this is a different episode. It's the Lost Coasters of Three Towers, or the Lost Coasters of my park. And so these are all the coasters that I created that just didn't quite work with the park, or that I just ultimately ended up not using. And I wanted to show you guys them now. I will say, a lot of them are not fully smooth. They're not fully complete because I didn't end up keeping the design. A lot of them are, though, or at least close to it. Like this single rail coaster. Really love the first half of it, not so much the second half. But yeah, so I want to just kind of give you guys the explanation on each of these and allow you guys to kind of look at them a little bit and take a POV of it. And this was the first wooden coaster that I tried before I settled on that current one that I have. And like I said, not all of these are completely smoothed out. So just kind of keep that in mind. But these are all the coasters that did not make the cut. Alright, so that's the wooden coaster. Definitely like the one that I have in my park more. It kind of loses its luster a little bit in terms of its speed and stuff. So kind of dragged out too much. Like I said, this was one of the first wooden coasters that I made in the game. But man, there's a lot of just lot of coasters in here. Yeah, so now this RMC, I do want to show you guys this one again because for those of you that haven't seen it, I did make a video with this coaster, just a POV of this coaster, but I absolutely love how it turned out. Still might be my favorite coaster I've made in the game. A lot of inversions, but I took some inspiration from Untamed from Wallaby Holland. All right, and so that end, I took some inspiration from Outlaw Run, even though it's not a double heartline roll or barrel roll. It's you kind of hang there a little bit. But yeah, so still one of my favorite coasters I made. And then since we're on the single rail track, I made this single rail coaster. I don't believe this one was fully smoothed out and stuff, so it's not a perfect layout. So I ended up deleting it before I ended up coming out with the layout that I thought was best. Alright, so that is the first single rail RMC. And then this one, I made this one before. Where is it? Over here. Yeah. Really, like I said, really love the first half of this layout. Alright, so that was this RMC right here. And honestly, I really I like this coaster a lot. I like the elements I made, and these are all custom. So they might not be perfect because this is the first time for me trying to do a full custom Immelman. It might have too drastic or too steep of a decline right after there. And then, once again, another Immelman. Although it could have been good to do the dive loop coming around this next way. But either way, it's my first time doing some of these, and I kind of like how it ends up curving a little bit. Then you come around. So yeah, I enjoyed this coaster. It just didn't quite fit in terms of the layout for the park because I'd made this kind of early on. I just couldn't find a good space where I wanted to fit it. Also, this end part, I feel like there are a couple cool elements, like here, kind of at the end. Like it's a very unique shaping for that part of it, but I just feel like it didn't quite fit. So now there's 4 more for us to look at, and this one you've already seen, but let's go ahead and watch it again. Or you have seen it if you've seen all the episodes of this park. And this is a dive coaster, so there are a couple areas that need to be smoothed, for sure. But I was trying to fit this in kind of in a small area in the park, and I just felt like it was just too large for that space in terms of the height of it, and it just kind of dominated the skyline too much. So I could be wrong about this, but I feel like these coasters in real life don't necessarily dominate the skyline, even if they are 200 feet, just because they're not overly long coasters. Yeah, so that was the dive coaster. Another thing with everything here is just everything's kind of so kind of compact together. But I do kind of like this, how this helix ended up working at the end. So I think it looks nice. Yeah, and so these two right here, this launch coaster is by far the worst one I made. And it's just not super smooth. All right, so it's funny when I made this, it was like I think it's like I got done with it like 12:30 one night, and I had work the next morning. And the next day, I showed Jasmine. I was like, "Oh, look what I made last night." Because I mean, there are some elements of the layout that I kind of like, and I kind of tried to model at least some of it after Thunderbird, I think, at Holiday World, which I think is the only launched coaster. Which obviously this color kind of they've obviously modeled this coaster type after that one. But yeah, and so then we went around this first part, and I was like, oh, nope, not smooth. um, so yeah, it just needed. I mean, it's not shaping's not perfect either. I think it actually needed to curve earlier. But I was trying to, somebody mentioned on one of the comments I'm making a launch coaster, so I was trying to figure out a launch coaster could kind of fit in that area. And the area I'm talking about is the area where the dive coaster is now at. And so here is the other launch coaster I tried, which I do like this one more. Still just didn't quite work out how I wanted it to. I don't know if you guys can hear that, my cat whining in the background, so I apologize if you can hear that. And yeah, there's the coaster. So this one, like I said, was going to be in the spot where the dive coaster was. And it did look kind of cool with having these, you kind of walk up and you see these double corkscrew element right here that they kind of intertwine. And then obviously somebody's head might get taken off there. But a couple of areas where it needed smoothing. And I would say none of these, maybe this one over here is the closest to being, or these two. And obviously this one in the back, because I made that for another video, are the closest to being like totally smooth and ready to be placed in the park. And the reason is because once I kind of made these layouts, I just wasn't too happy with it for the location. I think it's, yeah, but I do like this one more than this launch coaster here. And then the last one, this one's probably my favorite. And now this is this is a unique one because I wanted to kind of take some inspiration from a couple of different hyper coasters. And honestly, I think the Titan at Six Flags Over Texas is really underrated. It doesn't have a lot of airtime other than this one hill kind of right here. But other than that, I mean, it's a super underrated coaster. Got a lot of forces. And this Anubis coaster is actually modeled after it because if you look up the Six Flags Over, or Titan at Six Flags Over Texas, it's got these supports and it's got these cars right here. So this is actually what's modeled after. They don't sit four across like most other hyper coasters. They just sit two across. But then I also, with the coloring, like I wanted to take some inspiration from Raging Bull. So kind of having this initial drop in this part and then kind of after the break run a little bit, try to take some inspiration from Raging Bull, which the old B&M Hypers had a little bit of a pre-drop, which from my understanding helps, or at the time, because of how the lift chain was created, it helped take some of the pressure off the lift hill, off the chain, which made it more durable. At least that's my understanding. But yeah, so let's go ahead and check out this coaster. If you look at these stats, it is 69 meters tall, so that's about, let's see, let me do math real quick, because 3.37 meters per foot, so 69 times 3.37, so that's 232 feet. So it's a hyper coaster. And this was also potentially going to go in the spot of that dive coaster. But yeah, so I really love this coaster, to be honest. I just feel like it didn't quite work in the park that I currently had, so maybe in another park. Um, but yeah, I think I like the layout. I like how it's able to combine a little bit of airtime moments along with what the Titan has, which is a lot of kind of tight turns, a lot of lateral G forces. And so I think it did a pretty good job on that Helix. I'm really happy with how this one turned out. Like I said, it just didn't quite fit in the grand scheme of the park. So I wasn't going to try to force a big coaster just to have one like I kind of tend to do in a lot of my parks. And as you saw in the previous video, even with that dive coaster, it's like 192 feet, and so I don't have a single coaster in my park over 200 feet, which is a first for me. Um, but yeah, so out of these coasters that didn't quite make it, which one did you guys like the most? And I just want to get your thoughts and opinions on it because I wanted to show you guys all the other coasters that I made that didn't make the cut. There are a lot of them. So yeah, I really appreciate all of the constant support that everybody constantly shows Jasmine and I with our channel, and thank you guys so much for following along with this. And I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day.